Hello, this is a demo and explanation of a drum machine I've been working on in puredata. Here in this window we have the front panel GUI, and there's some basic controls, audio mixer, and we have these abstractions which are voices in the drum machine. So we'll take a look at the first one. I'll enlarge it. At the top, we have this GUI slash step sequencer. And then we go through this stuff, and at the bottom, we have this sampler called the Grampler, which is a granular synthesis based sampler that I worked on with Greg Dixon, Chris Polson, and Andrew May. I'll start at the top. Basically, each of these bangs represents a step in the sequencer, and when you click on them, they change colors like this. And the way you do that is you open up the properties for one of the bangs, and you'll see I have set the send and receive symbols here. They each have a unique send and receive. And then we go to this patch, and we have an abstraction for each bang. And in these abstractions, you have the receive from the bang, a counter that goes from 0, 1, 2, 3. You write that data into one table that has all the information for all the bangs in that voice. And then you use the route to send these color messages back to the bang. This is kind of like a toggle, but on toggle you have 0 and 1, and with this you have 0, 1, 2, 3, and you represent it with color. So it's a useful GUI trick. For the beginning of the sequencer, we have a metro, and you might think it's strange to have the metro inside of the voice because each voice will have a different metro. But there's a global tempo coming in, and you can pass this tempo integer through a multiplication factor, which lets you change the tempo for each voice and have different tempos. There might be some issue with metronomes getting out of sync between voices, but it's a trade-off. I think the flexibility is worth it. And the metro goes to this counter here, which goes through this delay. And you might think also it's strange to have a delay here because that means the whole sequencer runs late, and it's actually running late by half a step. But the reason you do this is because I have a random step trigger offset. So it will randomly move the trigger earlier or later. And if you were running right on time, then there's no way you could trigger earlier than usual because you're on time and it's already happened. So by running late, it gives you an opportunity to move the trigger up. That goes through this route after you check with the counter against the table, and you get the information for the bang, you route. And basically 0 does not go through. 1, you get a single hit. 2, you get a double hit with a delay. And 3, you get basically a roll of hits, also using delay. This goes to a pack, which basically takes these control data receives, packs them into a list, which goes to the sampler. I'll maybe show the sampler or the Grampler in another video, but it's too much to get into here. And we have just a simple frequency shifting patch that uses a random range at the bottom. So everything comes out at the bottom and goes back to the front panel patch where you can mix. And I think in the future, this is running at mono right now because some of the samples are just mono. But it would be nice to just route it so you can record on different tracks. this lets you add DSP effects after you've recorded your drum tracks, rather than worrying about creating another UI to set up any like delay or reverb or something within the drum machine. You could just do it separately in whatever mixing software or NPD or something. So I'm going to start this going, and you'll see that the bangs start turning yellow to show where you are in the sequence, but it will probably look bad on your video because of the synchronization. So I'm going to start the kick going, and then I'll just randomly add some hi-hat and some ride here. I'll turn down the ride, it's a bit loud. And now there's a different voice UI for the snare. You could set this up in any way, but I have a different UI for when you want to automate pitch or time stretch. So I'll put this just dry snare in. And then once I start automating pitch, you get some very different results. And now I'll automate some stretch. And also you could, like I was saying, you have the tempo modifier, the tempo multiplier, I mean. So you could run the snare at half speed or go back. Or you could run it at some like totally unrelated speed. But then if you go back, it's probably quite out of sync now, so you have to be careful with that. Maybe on the hi-hat, you want to add frequency shift. Give it a little more variety. So we do that on the ride too or something. And also, I'll show you some of the extra features. Like you could change and do freeze by setting this freeze offset so that it lines up with where you want to freeze in the sample. It's a little tricky. Yeah, like that. You can increase the number of hits in a roll. It defaults to 2. And you could randomly offset the triggers, or you can randomly offset the scheduling of grains in the sampler. If you turn that too high, it starts to sound pretty distorted from the original sample. And I don't have swing implemented yet, but that is the next thing to do. And then you can, of course, I have a reset function on this automation where you can just set it back to 0. I think probably one big thing to add to this is presets, where you can save like this groove, and then you could clear and then just start on a new groove, and then have some way to move between them. It would make it a much more dynamic drum machine if you could do that. So if you have any questions or comments or suggestions of how I could improve this, please send me a message on YouTube, and I'll see you next time. Bye.